Today we are making a phone case that you can easily adapt to different sizes of phones, and we are using Tunisian crochet honeycomb stitch in 2 colors. Let's get started. What you need is a small amount of yarn in 2 colors. I'm actually using 2 large balls, but you really only need a little bit. And then you need a double-ended crochet hook. So what we are going to do, it needs to have 2 hooks in the one. I have a link to some of these hooks in the video description. To start, we first need a chain that goes round the phone. For the phone I'm making it for, I need 29 stitches, but what you need to do is to make approximately that many and then measure it. So I'll first make a slip knot and then chain 29. Now I have 29 and then I'll measure it. And this amount of stitches, 29, is right for my phone. But if your phone is smaller or bigger, then make more or less stitches. What you need is an odd number of stitches. So say instead of the 29, 27, 25, 31, 33, and so on. After you have measured to make sure the length is right, join the chain into a ring using a slip stitch. And now we are starting the Tunisian crochet. First of all, we need to make the base row. That is done simply by lifting stitches. So you insert the hook into the first stitch, take a yarn over and make a stitch. And you repeat this, and each time you leave the new stitch on the hook. So continue making stitches here's a few now. And now I'm starting to use the other color. But before that, you need to turn your work the other way around and pull the hook so that you start using the hook at the other end, like that. Here's my second color, and I make a yarn over using that and pull it through the first stitch. Then yarn over, and now you pull it through 2 loops, 2 stitches, that there, and pull through 1 stitch and a second one. And again. This is something that never changes. We are going to use 2 different types of stitches, but this here, what we are doing now, which is called return pass, is always the same. And you continue until you have 2 or 3 stitches left of the first color. I'm leaving those 3 there now. And then turn back again, slide the hook to the other end, back to the other end, and continue lifting stitches, just like we first started. And you always make as many that you can comfortably fit on the hook, and so that it doesn't start stretching from anywhere, because we are working on a small item. On a big item you could have more stitches at the time. So here, and again I turn, slide the hook to the other end, and then make these here stitches. Always a yarn over and hook through 2 stitches. There, and then turn again and again start from the other end of the hook and continue lifting those stitches. So I'm continuing now until the end of the row like this here. So now I'm coming to the end of this here round, which is the base round, and then we continue directly onto the next round without actually finishing off this round with a slip stitch. We just continue like spiral. And this is now where we are starting to make two different types of stitches. The first one, just like before, that's the basic Tunisian stitch. Then the next one is a purl stitch. What you first do, you put your hook behind the yarn you have and take a stitch so that the yarn stays in front, and put the yarn behind it again and take a yarn over that way. So there's this here loop in front of you, and then you pull the stitch through. So that is the purl stitch. And then we continue so that every second one is a basic stitch and every other one is this here purl stitch. So just through normally from right to left, yarn over and make a stitch, and then onto the purl stitch. First the hook behind the yarn, then through this bar, twist it round, yarn over and pull through. And again a basic stitch, and this here purl stitch. So when you look clearly, there are two different types of stitches here. This is just a straight bar, and every other one is sort of twisted. I'll do one more time and then I turn and take the other color. There. And now just turn just like before, and like I was saying earlier, this here doesn't change, it's always the same. So you take a yarn over and always pull through two loops, two stitches, and again leave 2 or 3 of the base color there, and then turn again, slide the hook and continue. I find it helps that before turning I always finish with this purl stitch, so that I remember that I need to start with the basic stitch. So this is what we continue until the end of this here round. While we are working on this, you will see that the color I started with, it shows more, and the other one shows slightly less in between these here stitches. And don't worry that it doesn't really look like anything yet. We are just at the beginning. And then turn, slide the hook and the return stitches. And turn again and continue. So there's another half of this here round to do. Straight stitch and a purl stitch, and so on until you come close to where we started the round. That's this round done, and now that we are going on to the next round, we will always need to have a basic stitch over a purl stitch and vice versa. So look at it very carefully so that we get the right stitches. Otherwise you don't get that honeycomb pattern. I have a purl stitch here, and then I'm making a straight stitch, basic stitch, and then a purl. Now if it happens when you are at this stage that it doesn't go evenly so that you naturally get a purl over straight and the other way around, then what you do, you can just put two together like this and use them as one stitch to correct that. It won't actually show. But I have this right, and now I need a purl stitch here, and again here we are just going on to the next round in a spiral without finishing off the round at all. And this here, as we see, has this purl stitch with several loops and a shorter bit at the top. So you put the yarn through that shorter bit at the top and make a straight basic stitch. Then the next one will have the purl, and here again we have this little small stitch, so a basic stitch and a purl, and this is how we continue. Little by little we're starting to see the pattern, but not much yet on this here round. There, and then turn, and the return pass just the same as before. Turn and slide the hook and continue. That's a tiny small stitch, so that's then a basic stitch over it and purl, and now after this I turn again and use the other color and continue like this until the end of the round. Now coming close to the end of this round, and then you just continue straight on. Here I have a purl stitch, so it takes a basic stitch into it, and then the next one a purl stitch into a basic stitch, and so on. Now I'm already on the next round. This is where it starts. Like this, and now you are beginning to see the honeycomb pattern that we have a few rounds here now. So the second color shows in between these here loops. And this is how you continue right until the end. It needs to be long enough to cover your phone. So I'll measure this right now. Obviously it's not big enough, but I measure that it's right this way. There. So it's the right tightness here. And then I just continue as we have been working right until I get to here. Here now it's a little bit further on, so you see the pattern well now. Okay, here's another one I have been working on, and this is now the right size, so the phone goes right in here. And I'm finishing this off now. You see here that I have a few stitches of the base color left, and the second color is in here. And what I'm doing now, I'm turning this again and finishing off the return pass right to the end, so that I go through all of the stitches. That was the last one. And then I'm cutting off the white yarn and finishing it off. There. And then I'm going to put this here end inside the last round stitches. So it goes in there, and I have this here yarn now. And what I'm going to do for the last round is simply single crochets. I'm inserting the hook into this here bar and creating a stitch, and then the same for the next one, and a single crochet, and continuing like this here right round, a single crochet into each one of those stitches. Right round. Now I have gone round using single crochets, but you don't quite finish yet if you want to have a button. I have here a fairly big one, and I'm going to make a loop to button it up. I'm finishing up this round with a slip stitch to the start of the round, like that. This is folded so that the start of it is at the side, so I will want to have the button loop in the middle. Then I'm using a few slip stitches to get to the middle and then making a loop for the button. So slip stitches until you are in the middle. There. This is in the middle, and then chain to make a loop. I'm chaining 18. That's 18. And then join it to the same spot where you started using a slip stitch. And then turn and fill the loop using single crochets. First chain 1 and then enough single crochets so that it's tightly full of them. Here, and I have 26 single crochets in this here loop, and then finish off with a slip stitch and a stitch and cut it off and then fasten it off, and then sew a button on the other side. Just measure where the button should go. And the last thing to do is to finish off the yarns that you started with and close this here bottom bit by sewing it. Just simple stitches from side to side. And here we are. That's it all finished. Here's my phone. And now you can make these in all different colors to all your friends and family. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't signed up to my channel yet, please do. Bye!